Well, this is where I tell just a part of my life. I grew up in a family where my oldest brother was gang related, my next oldest brother was gang related, and my older sister was gang related.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, two different gangs.
Rivals?
Exactly.
In the same house?
But the thing was, it was unknown to each other. Yeah. We didn't find out till later on.
Rise from the ashes, everywhere that we go, our light be flashing. 'Cause you're alive, yes, you're alive. You can rise as you're dusting off the ashes. Rise from the ashes, so everywhere that we go, our light be flashing. 'Cause you're alive, yes, you're alive. You can rise as you're dusting off the ashes.
Hi, I'm Sandy Powell. Welcome to the Round Table. Today, our topic is basically coming from prison to success, or finding yourself in a place where you consider your low place, but somehow you found the way to get back up and to live, and not just live, but live successful. And I have the perfect example of that here in the studio today, Mr. Eonté Davidson.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Your story is not unique, and it's not necessarily different from everybody else's, but yours have the ending that we're always hoping for.
Definitely.
You, sir, once were incarcerated. Can you tell us how long and when were you incarcerated?
Well, first initially went to jail back in 2004, but I was sentenced in 2005.
Okay.
And I was sentenced to 10 years total.
Wow.
It was 10 do 5.
Right.
And off the 10 do 5, I did 4 years.
Wow. And so from that place, when did you realize, when I get out of here, I'm not coming back?
Actually, I realized that within the first month of being in the county jail. Being there was like a whole new world to me.
Right.
I won't say I'm no extra special person or anything. I did some wrong before then, ended up in jail before, but I never stayed.
Right.
I
Right.
did a little incident, came on home.
Right.
Holding cell is one thing, but when you know they're about to take you and you're not getting back out, it's a whole different feeling.
Right. It's a whole different thing. Well, mama coming down there, it's a little slap on the wrist thing. You're going to go home. You've been, a little misdemeanor here or something like that. But when you find out that this is one that's going to stick,
Exactly.
then it's a whole new world.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would tell anyone, once you're sitting in a cell and you're alone with your own thoughts,
Right.
that's when it gets real.
Right.
When you're hearing the verbiage around the cells of how people with the other same charge
Right.
don't go home, sit and do all the time, do 85% of the time, it starts really hitting you hard.
Right.
Like, wow, what can I do to get out of this?
Right.
Am I getting out of this?
Right.
And that's your biggest fear, am I getting out of this?
So is everybody kind of sitting around trying to hear each other's case and compare it to see what they think their verdict may be?
Unfortunately, yes.
Wow.
Everybody turns into a specialist.
Is that right?
Most of them been there for a while, just sitting in the county for
Right.
years, surprisingly. And they hear other people's stories coming through, people, unfortunately, who are what I call tenured vets of the prison system,
Wow.
who come and tell them their stories,
Right.
not knowing if it's true or not. But they take that as the holy grail for them, because it gives them, for lack of better words, hope.
Right. Exactly. And so with you, how old were you at the time?
I was 26 then,
Wow. So you
Yeah,
were just
so-
like
prime.
young man, probably should have been coming out of college and starting in a career.
Actually, I was in college.
You were in college when you were caught,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
whatever the charges were, you were in school.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I'm in school and working 2 jobs.
Well, this is the thing. Eonté, that I want everybody to know and to hear. A lot of us should have went to jail if we were to.
Oh.
I probably should have did some time too. And a lot of people who are watching, we were just fortunate enough not to go, or that we weren't caught, or that or the police wasn't where we happened to be doing what we were doing.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, a lot of people do a lot of illegal things.
Oh,
And
yes.
they just don't get caught. But in your case, here you are, because there's plenty of college kids. I know, I was one. Plenty of college kids who are doing things that could bring time.
Definitely.
You were in college. You were, like you said, obviously doing well.
Yeah, I was. I used to use the term I was an intelligent hoodlum. To where I was going to college.
Don't tell me you was an educated thug. Were you an educated thug?
I mean, so to speak, yes, I was.
Wow, okay.
But I wasn't in the streets the way other people, look
Right.
at it when they think, oh, ex-con. No, street life wasn't me. I wasn't that deep in the gutter thug or anything like that.
Right.
I still had a standard.
Right.
And
Now, wait a minute. Hold on. Now, because see, now you done messed me up. So you was a crook with a standard?
surprisingly, just like no honor among thieves, but you have those who just certain things they just won't do.
Right.
You
You
know,
have a
and-
limit to your madness.
That's it.
Right.
I organize my chaos.
Yeah, okay.
It can only go here with me. Certain things, I have to. No, I can't do that. Although I was doing wrong.
And this is how our young people get snagged. You do know that.
Yep.
Because they feel as though there is a limit to what they'll do. But when they cross the road or the line of breaking the law,
That's it.
they're already too far.
That's
but
it.
most of the time, our stop point is way past the lawful line.
Yeah, the threshold's already been broken.
It's already been
So once you
broken.
break the threshold, it's already too much.
Right. But I think that's why sometimes our young people get caught, because we think there is an extension to
Yep.
the threshold of wrong before they have to consider, should I or should I not do it?
You're right. It's a culture thing. From what I've been around, before when I was younger, I used to hear people, product of the environment. You hear that all the time. And coming up, I'm like, product of the environment? What do they mean?
Right.
And I had my first glimpse of that back in, it had to be 97. I was living in Oklahoma. Where I was working at, some people were saying that this is all they knew. They never been out of this, and they're afraid to go out of that.
Right.
And then it hit me, product of their environment.
Right.
They've never been out of anything else, so all they can breathe and inhale and exhale is what's around them.
Right. I believe that. I believe that there are people who are a product of their environment. And then there are those in those same environments who have the ability to lead. And those are the ones, I think, that rise to the occasion and are able to pull themselves up and still make it out of the environment in spite of what's going on around them. But if you're not a natural born leader, the probability is that you will be affected by your environment. What do you think about that?
Definitely. Well, this is where I'll tell just a part of my life. I grew up in a family where my oldest brother was gang related. My next oldest brother was gang related. And my older sister was gang related.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, two different gangs.
Rivals?
Exactly.
In the same house?
But the thing was, it was unknown to each other. Wow. Yeah. We didn't find out till later on down the road what was going on.
So did they know they were in rival gangs?
They didn't know they was even gang related.
So they were undercover gang members outside of the house. But when
Exactly.
they get home, just Billy
We
and
just,
Sarah.
that's it. brother,
And they
sister.
get out and that's Slick Sue and Ralph, Wreck-It Ralph on
Pretty much. Wow. Yeah, it's wild. Our parents, of course, hindsight is 20/20,
Right.
and just seeing things through a whole different eye now, I was like, wow. It's just that we was all in our own worlds and didn't see the signs. Because it's wild because my older brother is actually, he is considered a kingpin.
Wow.
He actually created the gang.
Wow.
It wasn't like he joined one, he created it.
Right.
And therefore, being within the lineage, everyone thought that I was part of it too.
Right.
I didn't have a choice of, oh, he's not in, he's not in with that crowd. That's his little brother. He's part of them too.
Automatic.
Because, back in the days when you,
initiated by relation.
that's it, and that's exactly what the police said. You are guilty by association.
Is that what your charge was when you were when you got caught?
No, man, my charge was actually aggravated assault.
Okay. Just
But I would say so many things led up to that moment. It's just, I have to tell everybody, anyone who's under the sound of my voice, period, it's the little things that surmount.
Right.
Because it's just the incident that happened with me, it was having 1 ounce of malice in my heart for the wrong reason created a lifetime effect.
Right.
You know, just thinking ill for one moment changed my whole life.
Wow.
Because it had me thinking differently, doing things differently
Right.
in one day. Because myself, I was actually, I was licensed to carry. I had been going to the range often.
So you had a weapon.
Yes, ma'am. And it was a freak accident that happened. Something that I never do as far as bringing a firearm in the house. I've never done it. Did it one day, and my whole world turned upside down.
Is that right? So tell me about the incident. You came into the house. This person is there,
Yes, ma'am.
and so you guys get into an altercation
There was no altercation. That's the thing.
because you had that
It
weapon.
was a freak incident. What it was, I was actually getting ready to go to work that morning. And I had been out, I took my other son home. And when I came back to my home, I was laying my firearm down on the dresser. And when I did so, it discharged.
Is that right?
Yep. And
So-
being in the area that I was in, which was government property, and since I am not a peace officer, the state picks up the case.
So automatically you get a charge just because of where the firearm went off at.
Exactly.
Not that you were aiming at
Whether
anybody
anything happened or not, just for the idea of even having it there, because even within the lease, it was happening in one of the projects.
Right.
Just having it there is it's an offense.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, unless you're a peace officer or officer of the law, you cannot have a weapon on any government property.
Well, sir. So
Even if
y'all
you are licensed.
y'all folk out there that's carrying.
Yeah, it's even on the license when you get it. When you get your
Because you
carry
know
license.
what? Ignorance is not a defense.
It's not.
Ignorance of the law is not
When
a
you
defense.
when you go sign for it, you're saying that you agree to all the terms.
And this is the thing about us in the terms. You know we haven't read them.
Exactly.
We haven't read the terms. We glad to get our little whatever we get, and we glad to have our little paperwork. We stick it in the glove compartment, and we never
And
read
we
it.
keep going on just because
And-
the only thing
and-
we know is we got it.
Right.
And a lot of people, even with that, a lot of people don't understand that you still have rights even without the license. You don't have to have a license if you have it out in the open,
Right. Exactly.
but don't have nothing in the chamber.
Right. Right.
A lot of people don't understand about that part
Right.
sometimes.
They
You
think
cannot
it
have
can
it
be locked
loaded.
and loaded.
No, you cannot.
But you cannot. Even if it's in the wide open.
Yep, you
has
cannot.
to. Right, exactly. And I think that sometimes I think that we are unaware, like with you. I don't know if did you know that when you.
Yeah, so that's why I said before, that's the one day where I went against everything.
Oh,
'Cause
so
I
you did know,
I was
but you
blinded by rage, unfortunately.
Gotcha. And in that moment, just made a bad decision.
And that's it.
And
Just not thinking, honestly. Just not thinking.
safety not on.
Nope.
Safety not on, and now the thing goes off, and then you get charged, and so now you find yourself a college student, 2 years under your belt. You have 2 jobs. You're a hard worker, obviously. To this day, that's you, and so you're a good guy that had a moment and wasn't thinking, and paid the ultimate price.
And that's it. And I was actually made an example of.
Is that right?
When I went to court that day, the judge himself said, "You're lucky we're not charging you with attempted murder."
Is that right?
And I'm like, wow. Because even everything that was lined up in the transcript was telling that it was just freak accident.
Freak accident.
Therefore, I even told myself, if I'm the one that even called the police.
Oh, is that right?
If it would have been out of malice, it wouldn't have happened.
Was the person in the room when
Yes.
when the weapon discharged?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what did they testify to? Did
Well, actually,
say-
they didn't even come to court that day.
Oh, they didn't. They just stayed away. Is that because your
And I
brother?
think that would have changed the whole aspect of things
What do you mean? For the good or for the
good.
good?
Yes,
He
ma'am.
could have made it better for you.
Well, she
She
could
could have made it better for you, but she chose not to.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So now we find ourselves with the drama of not being able to have a good defense because one piece is missing,
Yes, ma'am.
just a person to testify.
That and also, I think it was also the fact that this judge was their very first day on the bench
Is that right?
and wanted to make a good plea for, hey, I am the judge.
Wow. And so you ended
Excuse
up
me.
with how much time now?
At that time, it came down from being 15 years, only 10 years, and it was 10 years due 5.
So you ended up doing 5 years.
Four years out of 5.
4 years out.
Felt like 5, but
It felt like 50,000.
yes, it did.
Tell me, when you're there, what are you thinking in your mind? Because, like you said, it's not like you're coming off the streets. You're some child that's wayward, that you're just doing the most. You know, like you said, you got a limit to your madness and stuff like that. But, you know, you obviously have some positive goals. You're in school, you're working, you know, you're a responsible father.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're sitting in prison, away from your family, away from your children. And what is on your mind? What is your plan of action that you're sitting and saying?
My initial thoughts was, who will my kids look toward now?
Mm-hmm.
Who can I actually depend on to stand in my gap?
Right.
Because one, being the way things were going at that moment in the area that we were living in, there was no good role models. I'll say that wholeheartedly.
Right.
I was their role model.
Right.
Still am.
Right.
And to sit and think, I'm thinking way off, like, wow, 5 years. What's going to happen within 5 years? Who's going to really be there taking care of them?
Right.
Are they going to treat them the way I treat them?
Right.
You know, there was no thoughts about myself because I know I can handle myself.
Right.
I know I'm going to get through whatever it is that comes my way. I just wanted to make sure that the outside world was going to be taken care of in my stead since I'm not there.
That's right. Well, being that you are now incarcerated, did you finish school in prison, or what was
It's
your
kind of wild, actually. Actually, I am certified with wastewater management right now because I actually got a certificate from Milledgeville College.
Wow.
And I didn't finish up my degree that I was already working on before I went in. Unfortunately, some of the programs that they had where I was at got snatched out of there.
Wow.
So I took what they did have.
Wow.
And during that time, I just started reading until I couldn't read anymore. And in doing so, I stumbled over a few things and started just reading up on actually more poetry stuff. Started just looking into what can I do when I get out of here.
Right.
So that right there led me to a gentleman. Till this day, I tell him he has been one of the turning points for me through prison.
He was
He was
also
a minister.
incarcerated?
No,
No,
he is a
came to
minister who
visit.
comes to
Okay.
visit. And he had this thing called freedom from bondage. And so at first I was a little, standoffish because I was like, I'm not sure exactly what he's putting out.
Right.
And so after I gauged him and started reading, I was like, you know what? This is on the right track.
Right.
And so I went through the whole series of Freedom from Bondage, read all the scriptures that was attached with it, and then realized I understood what being a prisoner in your own mind is.
Right.
And I would say that 90% of the people that are in prison are in a prison of their own mind inside of a prison.
So they're in prison before they get to prison.
Yes, definitely.
And so they just now match what their mind is already doing,
Yep.
which is
Locked
I'm gonna
up
lock
twice.
down. Yes. Oh, wow.
Locked up twice.
That is a very, very profound statement. That does make you want to sit back and think, because you're right. I think that if we had a better mindset, most of us would not even end up in that.
Definitely.
In that
I'll fast forward to when I actually had to go in front of the parole board. I was there in front of a panel of 6 individuals, 3 being counselors.
right.
No, 2 being counselors, 2 being probation officers,
Right.
and 2 being the higher ups that were in the facility I was at,
Right.
being a chief and a lieutenant.
Right.
And within that, the counselor asked the question of, how did I feel about their programs and do they work?
Now that's a good question.
And I told them that they want me to answer that honestly. Because during some of the programs, they were trying to gear your answers instead of going with what you honestly feel.
Right.
And so I had to ask her, do you want me to answer it honestly? And doing so, she said yes. Now, this same individual believed in the Dalai Lama and everything else that goes with that.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why I asked her that.
Right.
And so when I told her, I said, well, me being a spiritual man, I look at things a whole different way.
Right.
Because a program can work for a person who wants it to work.
Right.
If you don't want it to work and you still got the old mindset, You're going to be stuck on stupid.
Right.
And in doing so, in her classes, I told her just like that, in your classes, when people gave you truthful answers, you told them no, that wasn't true.
Right.
So you're trying to program them to think on what you want them to think.
Right.
If you want something to work, you got to allow them to be who they are so you can see what the change needs to be. And the class we were in was called Motivation for Change. But if you're not giving them a true motivation for change and you're trying to dissect them and put something in it, all you're going to get is a puppet.
Right. Something you created.
Well, not even that. The puppet's going to be, they're going to put on for you so you can leave them
Right.
alone.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You creating the show.
That's it.
Pretty much, but you're not really seeing exactly what is in that person. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the results that you're looking to get.
Exactly.
So you would say the programs for you in prison were not 100% helpful in your upward mobility to have a mindset to
Now, what I will say,
move forward,
I took a few things from the programs. I took things from Motivation for Change.
right?
I took things from a class called Victim Impact.
Right.
I took things from a class called, can't think of the full name of it, but they call it RSAP.
Right.
I can't think of what it actually stood for. But within those classes, I took bits and pieces.
Right.
But the entirety of the program, I think, was created by someone who's never been to prison. Someone who doesn't know how to create an outcome out of somebody who doesn't have nothing to pull from.
Well, this is why I wanted you, and I wanted to speak to those who have been there, because we can only speculate. I mean, you can visit a prison, and it's a whole different kind of thing.
Oh, yes.
You can visit. You can say, well, I'm gonna stay here for 60 days and live with the prisoners, and because I've seen that show too.
Yeah,
Where they live with the prisoners
that's
for 60 days.
not the same.
But you know, you going home.
It's
You
not
know
the
what I mean?
same.
It's not the same.
Well, I would give you an outlook on something that if I wasn't who I was, it probably would have scared the life out of me.
Right.
Getting up, I used to have to be up 3 o'clock in the morning.
You had to be up.
I had to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Every day. Every day.
Every day. I was in a facility where we had to have what they call a detail, which is your job,
Right.
which you're doing for free.
Right.
And my job was they call it processing. I killed hogs, broke them all down from the inside out, created what goes into the stores. And in doing so, one morning we were on our way to what they call chow. And unknown to me, the guy behind me is getting shanked. I mean, he's literally right there, almost leaning up against me, and people, within 3 seconds, they probably done hit him 8 times.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Right there on your wall, just going to go
Just
eat.
going to eat something.
Yep, and the guy that did it, you see him, all you see is a blur. He goes and he throws his weapon up on the rooftop. Nobody sees him do it except for a few of us who are down there.
And nobody's talking.
And no, reason being, you saw what he just did to him.
Well,
you don't know who he's connected to.
I think everybody who has any sense at all, I know we always try to say, well, it's better to try to make it, but we don't have to live there.
Exactly.
And so when you're trying to get people to
Leave
start
you alone.
talking, yeah, you don't want to create another issue for your world, because like you said,
He's trying to go home.
they just trying to go home. I just want to do my little time and I'm gonna get out
I
of
tell
here.
you, it's to those on the outside looking in, it sounds easier said than done.
Trust me, I can only imagine.
And when you're in, like myself, what they see on TV is nothing. Everybody's not in sales like that. I was in a bay where it was 68 of us, sitting no further away than you and I. That's how we slept.
Sitting.
If I turn over and put my hand right there, I can put my hand on top of your head. 2 to a bunk, and the bunks are no further than 2 feet apart. And there's 68 people in this bay. There are no separate cells where you and your roommate. No, it wasn't that.
And you did that for 4 years?
Did that for 4 years.
So the cells are really a luxury thing.
To an extent, yes, because you get more peace and privacy to yourself. You don't have to worry about, is somebody going to come from the other side who don't like me and do something to me in my sleep,
My God.
which I've seen plenty of, unfortunately.
Wow.
I've seen people grab them out of the beds and take them to the showers, beat them, do whatever they want to do to them. Even for lack of better terms, the homosexuals will grab them, because these are guys. They're muscular. They're strong. You have kids in there,
They take
and
advantage.
they take advantage of them.
And that's the thing, I think that it's hard for my mind to grab, because it's a reality, But it's the part of the reality that most of us on the outside don't really want to deal with. But it's a truth, and the truth is happening whether we want to deal with it or not.
And see, that's the thing. Before going in, it's something that I knew happened, but really couldn't grasp it because I didn't have no idea of how it could happen.
Right.
You know, being that as all men, we're the man.
Right.
You know, ain't that like that don't happen to me?
Right.
Excuse me. There's many times where we used to sit around with groups and say what we would do and what we're not going to do, and if somebody do this to you. But then when you're in the real life event and things are just going down, all that go out the window.
It's a different story.
It's survival of the fittest.
Yes, and then that's where, you know, I think where we all would be a different person.
Oh, definitely.
You become what you are in your environment.
You become an animal, honestly.
To survive.
I hate to say it, but that's, in order to survive, you have to become an animal.
Exactly.
The guards are against you.
Right.
And the prison that I went to actually ended up on CNN because the guards were beating the inmates like there was no tomorrow. And in doing so, I can remember one night where one of the lieutenants came inside and he went to the back with one of the guys and like, we're going to fight back here and whoever win.
Wow.
We're going to leave it like that. Yeah. And this is the guard.
So he just had attitude.
And if he would have lost, what would have happened was they got what they call a CERT team. The CERT team will come pull you out, take you around the corner where the cameras are.
And handle you.
Yes. Then they're going to put you in solitaire till you heal up.
And nobody's going to know.
And nobody's going to say a word. Nobody's going to know a thing. Because one, your family don't have no reach till you're in there anyway.
Right. And all they can say is you don't have visitation this week.
That's it. They got write-ups.
Right.
He got a card. He got a write-up. He got a discipline. And so
in
with
actuality,
that,
he's healing.
I mean, that's it. And if the nurses and stuff, if most of them are in cahoots.
Wow.
Only way anything got out, this one day one of the nurses was sick, so they called someone in from a different prison. One of the gentlemen was he was down in the solitaire in the, what they call infirmary.
Right.
His eye was literally out of his socket.
Oh, my God.
That's how bad they beat him. And he passed a note to her. And she sent it on and took it outside of that county, of course, because everybody in that one county, either family or part of the prison system. And so she got word back to his family. The next thing you know, GBI, FBI, and CNN was all down there.
Wow. Was this the time that
That's
you were
when I was
in?
there. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Trust me, when our counselor ended up calling me to the office, it was like, we're allowing you this one phone call. My dad had called there because my uncle saw it in New York.
Wow.
I was trying to make sure nothing was happening to me, and I wasn't part of what happened. Wow. I was like, no, but I got some of the tension from some of the certs. I didn't get the full-on beating, thank the Lord, but I knew how to walk the line.
Exactly.
I know when to pick my battles.
Exactly. And you didn't pick the foolish ones.
Not at all.
My thing is, out of all that you have said and all that you have wowed my mind now, you have wowed my mind. You still haven't made up mind that when you get out of here, you are never returning.
Exactly.
And
I've seen too much.
Yeah. But you know what? And this is the thing about this, because I had some statistics I was looking at earlier with you about, I think it was 2005.